Well, battery and battery maintenance is very important. All customers say, how long will it go on a battery?
Well, battery, you've got to realise that your scooter will only do a certain mileage.
Well, they're as important as petrol in your car. You can't set off from here to London on 2 gallons of petrol. In the same way, you can't get from here to Doncaster on a scooter that you've used for the last 4 days and you haven't put it on charge.
Put the scooter in the shed and put it in charge, because it pays to keep the battery charged up.
A lot of people, in my experience, think, oh well, there's 2 lights left on it, it'll get me there and back kind of thing, and it doesn't.
But there are things that customers can do to ensure the battery they are going to get the best life out of the battery.
And every time you use it, of course, you put it on charge.
If we use it a lot, then my husband charges it every night.
Every day. I make sure I charge it every day. And if I'm going from here to town, I put it on charge at night and give it a complete night charge, and then that takes me into Doncaster and back.
Batteries are very modern nowadays, they're very well made, and they don't need much maintenance, but they do need to be regularly charged. So if in doubt, put it on charge.
You can't really afford to let it run down because you could be stuck somewhere, obviously.
In the unlikely event that you have forgotten to charge the vehicle fully and you find yourself maybe stranded, I would recommend you at least have a mobile phone.
Well, many of the obstacles I come across when we're out and about, as I said before, are vehicles parked on pavements.
A lot of cases, it's vehicles parked on pavement.
So therefore you have to sort of find a place where you can get down using a drop curb onto the road, go round the obstacle and then try and get back up onto the pavement as soon as you can.
Pedestrians will be classed as obstacles.
Obviously other road users, pedestrians, cyclists, roadworks.
You can also get wheelie bins, boxes, crates, all that sort of thing.
Sometimes when people stand on the curb and you can't get by, you do ask, but they just won't move. Well, just ask them nicely to move. If they don't, we have to wait.
Glass is a big obstacle. People are smashing bottles and glass on the pavement can obviously puncture your tyres.
Things you must think about is obviously alternative routes.
A scooter user needs to be thinking ahead and looking ahead, looking down the road, making sure that where they're going is not going to lead into a dead end that they then have to back out of. So it's really just about taking care, thinking ahead and thinking, well, where am I going? Where am I going to and what's going to be in the way?
Personally, I think insurance should be compulsory.
Get some kind of third-party policy cover.
It's very easy to catch the controls on a scooter. I've had personal experience of one lady crashing through a big sheet glass door in Frenchgate Centre. People
Really must be aware that they're driving a product which the rolling weight is actually fairly high, and if they hit somebody they're going to injure them or themselves, or if they hit a motor car they're going to damage it.
Basically she thought it was an automatic door and drove at it, and it wasn't, so she hit it and it just shattered into a million pieces.
And you know, that's a real cost or a real damage that has happened to another person.
She could have been injured. Obviously owners at Frenchgate Centre could claim money for this door, which wouldn't have been cheap.
Well, insurance is actually very useful. Insurance for scooters is very inexpensive, it's very simple, it's very straightforward.
So in the unlikely event you do have an incident, it may not be a pedestrian that you hit, it could be someone else's property that you've damaged. It may be a straightforward accident, but at least you've covered yourself financially if a claim comes against you.
I have home and contents insurance, and the mobility scooter is covered for public liability and for theft.
It covers not just their vehicle for damage, it covers their vehicle for theft, but it also covers whoever their third-party liability to any other person.
For everybody's benefit, really, insurance should be a compulsory part of buying a scooter.
Access to shops quite often is difficult.
I don't take my scooter into many shops because I can get it someplace, park it, then go and do my shopping, then come back to my scooter.
It depends on the shop you go into and how wide it is. And half the time the shops are not very wide, so you can't take that scooter in. So you have to leave it outside.
Every shop in the Frenchgate Centre does allow the scooters to come in, so you've just got to be careful of the signs in the way. But they do say the three-wheelers are very easy to move around these sides.
You tend to find that people, when they're wondering about especially shopping, tend not to be aware of the surroundings very much.
Pedestrians change positions and change directions without any notice, so they have to take that into account.
And you find quite often that they can wander across in front of you, step back when they're looking in a shop window, or just turn about straight at you.
Like nowadays, everybody's busy doing their own shopping and dashing here, dashing there, and they just don't really basically look to see what's around them. So I just say to the customers, just be very careful, just go slow where it's very busy.
You obviously have to be ready to stop and change your direction fairly quickly sometimes when people do this. Other times people actually are using mobile phones and wandering around just zigzagging in front of you, completely oblivious.
Pedestrians often do the unexpected. They may be looking in a shop window, you're approaching, they'll step back from looking through the shop window into the path you're taking, so you have to take this into account.
But I must stress though, it's not a big problem or a big issue. I don't want to frighten anybody thinking, oh, I daren't go into French Gate because this is going to happen and that. It doesn't happen all the time, but it's just you've got to just make it aware that it could happen.
If you're going to park outside a shop or a post office, you have to go in, always remember to take the key out. Then people can't drive off with it.
It's important to learn how to safely turn your scooter wherever you are. Obviously, they can be tipped and cause some real damage. Learn your vehicle's turning circle. It will help in the long run. Know how wide an aisle needs to be or how much space you need to negotiate tight corners. It's better than barging into displays and passers-by.
Try not to take things for granted. You may think people or vehicles have seen you, but you can never be sure. In the long run, it's safer for you. Do whatever you can to be seen, and then be patient enough to take the safest route.
It might sound obvious, but thinking ahead and looking ahead is very, very important.
Plan your route. Even that can get disrupted.
Often a scooter user is looking for what they call a drop curb, which is where the curb comes down onto the same level as the road.
I just stop the scooter, look around, see what the best way is, then take it.
That's essential sometimes for some scooter users to cross a road. They can't get across the road without that.
In fact, they're going a long way. I plan it way in front, so they know I've got time to get there and get back.
So when you don't get stuck high and dry and have to travel back a long way in reverse or whatever.
So often it's about thinking ahead and looking ahead and thinking where you're going.
So now that scooters are obviously part of highway code, then it is a good idea that anybody buying a scooter,
well, it's easy. You've just got to know the highway code.
Should look at general rules on manoeuvring, crossing roads, turning left, turning right, obviously using the mirrors.
Shows you're not going to cause any trouble with anybody.
They have to abide by road signs, traffic light systems.
The thing about the highway code is really what it illustrates for a lot of scooter users is, you've really got to be aware that you need to respect other road users and respect, of course, yourself.
Don't treat them like a car thinking that you're invincible to other car users.
You cannot use cycle lanes or bus lanes. They are specifically there for the buses and for cyclists.
Make sure you check the highway code for more details on road signs and their meanings.
A lorry couldn't see you on the road.
Keep your eye on the road and with your traffic. Then you're not getting into any problems.
I have a large scooter and I found out.
Well, recently DVLA has introduced a compulsory tax disc for the 8 mph scooters.
That you had to have a tax disc.
Because they're no longer classed as a mobility aid, they're classed as a leisure vehicle because they go 8 mph. And because obviously they can go on the road. They'll supply a tax disc